so voting, right? So when you go to vote, you go to the polls, right? The voting polls. But this is more of actually what it is. I mean, so right. This, I don't know if this is right, but it's pretty close. So. And here's the polls. And so what are the voting polls? They put people on the exact opposite side of different things that they try and that they use to put people on different sides so that they argue with each other. So that's why they have that saying, you know, a divided house can't stand. And then they created the House of Representatives, and made themselves false gods of authority. And they're making a lot of gold from doing that. Right? Yeah, well, you know, that's a horror picture right there. But there's something better, you know. So, anyways, so they make themselves false gods of authority by making people divided against each other at the polls. Now, what do you see at the polls? A lot of ice, and it's cold. That's because if you're arguing with each other and you're on opposite sides of the thing, you know, you're not experiencing love. So love is a warm, soft, kind, loving thing, right? And you know, if it's not love, then it's cold and mean and you know, bitter and those kinds of things. But so they put so what? How did all that happen? Okay, so let's that started. So I I know I use this a lot, but I mean it's the truth. It goes back to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, right? So what they're trying to do is deceive people, right? Deceive, right? And so, and that's why you know the liberty in the statue. You know, you'll see that snake there, you know, and then you'll see it, you know, a lot of times with anything that has to do with the legal system and you know, the caduceus and stuff like that. But anyways, so they're trying to deceive you with a damnation, right? A damnation in DC, right? So remember, they divide people on opposite sides of the pole. So divide and conquer, right? Divide and conquer. This is why, you know, so it says be fruitful and multiply. But with the government, you always find things that are divisions. You know, the division of, you know, it's the devil's church, right? A lot of religions are too. I mean, most religions are religions of the government. Of course, the government is a religion as well. You know, that's why they deify George Washington. And they have all these false gods like authorities. I mean, gods have religions, right? They even have Medusa, who her brain is actually Eve. Her brain is filled with evil thoughts because she's been deceived. And that's what all those snakes are. They're all those evil thoughts. And so, you know, you have Cottonmouth and Copperheads. But, so anyway, so they've created a damnation, and then they made the tree of death. Now the tree of life has, so the tree of death, the knowledge of good and evil, that's what I mean, if you read a book, that's what people are looking for, right? The knowledge of good and evil. But if you gather books all together in one place, it's called what? They call that a library, right? A library. And so They created this damnation. They created the tree of death. So they got these 3 branches on there, and it's judicial, legislative, and executive. Right? So, you know, the law comes from the Jewish, well, I mean, it's the priest and the high priest, but they say, you know, some people call them Pharisees, but it's often not very fair. Anyways, and so this is robes, ink, and powder, right? So this is black magic. Right, see, black ink, you know, black robes, black ink, black powder. The robes is a judicial, legislative. They're the ones that write all the laws, and executives are the ones that force the law. That's why they're called the force, right? They force the law. But so robes, ink, and so this is why, you know, you die in the law. And so, you know, that's why the 10 Commandments was introduced in the form of 2 tombstones. It was one each for Adam and Eve. So when you go to when you go to vote, you'll always see these signs, and they say this, and they're almost always written in this way: vote here. Why is that? Well, it's vote her, right? Which would be Eve, deceive, right? So the you know, deceive even the very elect. But it's also vote her tree. See? It kind of boggles the mind, doesn't it? And of course that's the serpent's tree, right? It says, here, don't eat, you can eat from this tree. You're not going to die. You're not going to die if you do that. Of course, look at your driver's license. Okay? Look at your driver's license. Your name is written in all capital letters. Now, where else do they do that? They do that on your financial stuff. Of course, financial stuff has to do with what? The money. And money comes from what? The Bureau of engraving, right? Where? Engrave. So see, so that you take it to the tree of the death, and you do die because your name goes in all capital letters, and the government thinks of you, spiritually speaking, dead. This is why, you know, court, you know, they issue summons, right? Because they're summoning spirits of the dead. Another thing from the tree, and I'm just going to say this real fast. Another thing from the tree of death is a hunter's tree. A hunter's tree, what hangs from the tree, a hunter's tree is not the fruit of the tree of life, it's the fruit of the tree of death. It's not actually a fruit at all, it's dead animals. That's why Adam and Eve had to hide, right? That's what you call an animal skin, is a hide. And so after they killed an animal and they sinned doing that, they had to hide themselves. And so they had to be covered in the sin that they'd done. But anyways, so you got this Bureau of Engraving. Oh, and that's why it's called a diet. And of course, you see, die it. and that's a cross, right? Because it's about sacrifice. And that's a cold, terrible thing. But so that's you know, you've got the Bureau of Engraven Images, Bureau of Engraving, right? And that's, see, they're giving you the finger. They're saying, hey, go get in the grave. You know, and that's, you know, go partake of this stuff, and we'll put your name in all capital letters. We'll make you slaves, and that's why they made the money out of cotton paper. Because instead of people choosing God, instead of people choosing, well, so just say it the way it's supposed to. Instead of people choosing me, they said, no, we want to do it. We want the God of authority, because we don't want to have faith in each other. We want to have faith in someone who wants to rule over us. Now, a long time ago, teachers and stuff like that, they used to hit kids on the hands with rulers. You know, and that was, you know, it's, look, I'm trying to show you, man. Kings and rulers and governments ain't good for you. A lot of people say, oh, you're not God. You can't be God because you're a man. Well, how am I supposed to exist, right? Why did I create a family? Why did I create the human family? Because I need a bunch of people to bow down and worship me? No. I created a human family so that I wouldn't have to spend all of eternity and all of existence alone, by myself. And that's another thing people do. They're trying to do it alone in this world. They say, "Oh, we need some help. We need a house and stuff like that." Everything on earth is given to you to use for free, right? You're allowed to use. You can use all the stuff. There's trees, and every time you eat a fruit or a vegetable, there's enough seeds in there to make dozens, hundreds, or thousands of the same thing, right? It's about abundance. You're supposed to have, you know, everything you need. Y'all decide to take from the earth and make each other pay for the gift of living. And so, I mean, and that day they did, you know, they did surely die, you know. So they did die. But, so, you know, I mean, so there's a video I have on here. It's called Merry Christmas, right? Now, I know a lot of people say Merry Christmas like that. Mary, all right? And, of course, Edna. But, so it's, the video is Merry Christmas. Now, in the beginning of that, my immediate family, my children and my immediate family, Mead, right? That's 9 and 26, right? So, if you watch that video, I go through and I show you the things that I made possible for you to be able to see the truth, right? And that's the thing, you know. The governments and religions, they don't want you to see the truth. They want to deceive you, right? Deceive, right? Right? Like if you, I can't think of another word right now. Devalue something, you take away the value. If you deceive something, you take away the sight. And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take your vision from you so that you would put all your faith in them. That's why it's the full faith and credit clause. And their stuff written on parchment skin. You know, originally that stuff, you know, Constitution, all that kind of stuff was written on parchment. You know, the skin of a dead animal, and paper, the pulp of a dead tree. You know, and they want to say that starts the life of something. It doesn't. It starts the death of something. Death of a people, death of a nation. Damnation, you know. And so now, I mean, I didn't like the fact that you made a nation anyways. But now it's even worse because you've even taken. Now you shouldn't do a flag. I mean, you really shouldn't unless it's got, you know, the earth in the shape of a heart and says that all people are to love each other. But I wish you wouldn't even have a flag like, you know, trying to. So, but now they've got the flag that's beaten involved black and blue. There's no life left in it, or black and blue and gray, or black and gray. And this is just a subconscious reflection into the world of the direction that you're headed. You're closer and closer to death. It's just, I mean, you know, I'm not even sure why I do this, because I've been trying to give you the truth and to free you now for over 10 years. It's been over 10 years. It's like 12 years now that I've been trying to do this, and it hasn't worked. I mean, I think I've had one person ask me, and it was online, and they didn't get very specific or anything like that, if I was actually God. But I mean, all you have to do instead of saying, "Well, you can't be God. You're that's blasphemy. You being a mere man, you claim to be God. So, you know, just give, you know." You give government the chance, right? And what do they do to you? You know, you give your economic system a chance, and what does it do to you? You give your political and religious systems a chance, and what does it do to you? It teaches you that God is a God of death and sacrifice and eating a dead body and drinking the blood. You know, a vampire ritual. That God is a God of sacrifice. I mean, you only have to think about that for a second. It ends with ice. That's cold. That's wrong. But if you were just to talk to me for a minute, just or message me and just be, you know, honest and true, and ask me some questions, or talk to me, or let me, you know, say, you know, is there other revelation can you give us? You know, these guys are out there trying to be, you know, your legislative gods of authority, and you just have to, you have to see that they've deceived you. See? Anyways, I love you. That's that video. Yeah, I've been doing this 12 years, trying to give you all the truth and set you free. I don't want to do it anymore. I'd rather do something else. This is not fun. So, have it your way.